For 58 years, the rest of the world has watched England promise everything and deliver almost nothing. Show up, look like the best team in the building for 90 minutes, then find the cruelest possible way to lose. 6 major tournaments ended on penalties. But there is a 16-year-old kid who just broke a Premier League scoring record that no one his age was ever supposed to touch. The hurt has a new generation attached to it now, and that should worry everyone else. To understand why 2026 actually feels different, you have to go back to the one moment that started all of this. It is not a loss. It is the only thing England have ever actually won. 1966, Wembley. England host a World Cup for the first and only time in their history and beat West Germany 4-2 in the final, with Geoff Hurst becoming the only man ever to score a hat-trick in a World Cup final. It should have been the beginning. Instead, it became the standard nobody since has been able to reach. For the next 24 years, England qualified, competed, and went home without ever truly threatening that feeling again. Then came 1990, Italy, a semi-final against West Germany, the score lucked at 1 apiece deep into extra time. For the first time in England's history, the game went to penalties. Stuart Pearce's shot was saved. Chris Waddle blazed his over the bar. Germany went through. It was the first penalty shootout England had ever been involved in at a major tournament. It would not be the last. It would barely be the worst. Notice the pattern building. England's greatest tournament memory came from 90 minutes of football. Almost every gutting memory since has come from 12 yards out, under lights, with the whole country holding its breath. Remember that detail. It becomes the entire story. After 1990, England became international football's most reliable heartbreak machine, always competitive, always dangerous for about an hour and a half, then gone, usually in the cruelest way available. In 1998, 18-year-old Michael Owen scored one of the great World Cup goals ever, a sprint through the heart of Argentina's defense that should have been the start of something. England still lost on penalties in the round of 16. In 2004 and again in 2006, the same story, different decade. Portugal on penalties in the quarter-finals, twice. 6 shootouts, 1 win against Spain at Euro 96, 5 defeats. No team in European football history has lost more penalty shootouts at major tournaments than England. 2018 finally cracked the curse, barely. A 4-3 shootout win over Colombia in the round of 16. England's first major tournament penalty victory in 22 years. They rode that breakthrough all the way to the semi-finals, the country's best World Cup finish since 1990. Croatia ended it in extra time. Close, still not enough. 2021, the European Championship final at Wembley against Italy, the closest England had come to a trophy in 55 years. It went to penalties again. This time, 3 young players missed in a row. England lost the final in their own stadium on spot kicks in front of their own people.
If 1990 introduced the curse, that night confirmed it had teeth. 2022 in Qatar followed the same script. A quarter-final against France, England level, then behind, then a missed penalty from their own captain in the final 20 minutes that would have tied the game. Out, again, not on penalties this time, but the same feeling, the same summer ending early, the same conversation about what it would actually take to break through. Then came 2024, and something genuinely new happened. A quarter-final against Switzerland at the European Championship went the distance once more, And for the first time since that single win against Spain in 1996, England won a shootout at a major tournament. They went on to reach the final. They lost it to Spain, but the shootout curse, the specific demon that had followed this team for almost 38.5 decades, had finally been beaten at least once when it mattered. Small crack, worth remembering. If 28 years of shootout failure was the long disease, the bigger question was always who was going to actually fix the underlying problem. Not just win one shootout, build a team that never needed the question asked in the first place. England turned to Thomas Tuchel, a manager with no previous experience in international football, but a track record of arriving at clubs in disorder and leaving them with silverware. Chelsea, Borussia Dortmund, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich. His brief from the Football Association was stated plainly the day he was hired. Win the World Cup, nothing else was the point. His qualifying campaign answered the first question immediately. 8 wins from 8 matches, 22 goals scored, 0 conceded. Not a single goal against across an entire qualification campaign. That had never happened before in the history of English football.
England were the first European nation to secure their place at the 2026 World Cup. For a country that has spent decades qualifying comfortably and collapsing dramatically, perfection in qualifying is not nothing. It is also not proof of anything yet. Qualifying campaigns and World Cup quarter-finals have never been the same animal for this team. What Tuchel inherited was not a broken squad, it was the opposite problem. Almost too much talent, not enough certainty about how to arrange it. Jude Bellingham, 22 years old and already a Champions League winner and Ballon d'Or contender at Real Madrid, anchors the attacking midfield. Bukayo Saka, the academy product turned Arsenal talisman, remains undisputed on the right, with Tuchel publicly demanding more goals and assists from him heading into the tournament. Harry Kane wears the armband, England's record goalscorer, chasing the one trophy that has eluded every England captain since 1966. Declan Rice anchors the midfield without argument, the calm, physical presence that lets everyone in front of him take risks. And Marcus Rashford, revitalized after a difficult spell at Manchester United, has rebuilt his career at Barcelona and arrives in the squad with genuine form behind him for the first time in years. Even the selection controversy says something about the depth available. Phil Foden and Cole Palmer, 2 players who would start for most nations on earth, did not make the final 26. This is no longer a team waiting for one generational talent to carry it. It is a deep, increasingly ruthless group with more than one route to goal. But the spine is not the reason this tournament should make other nations nervous. That would be the kid. Max Daumann was born in 2009. He signed his first professional contract with Arsenal before he had finished secondary school.
In late 2025, at 16 years and 73 days old, he came off the bench against Everton and scored, becoming the youngest goalscorer in the history of the Premier League. Not the youngest Arsenal goalscorer, the youngest in the entire 130-year history of England's top division. Youngest. And Thomas Tuchel did not bury the story, he fed it. Asked directly about Daumann ahead of the World Cup, the manager said there could be no doubt about the talent, that everyone around the player praised him, and that he was being kept in the best possible environment to keep developing. A 16-year-old being seriously discussed for a senior World Cup squad is not normal. It barely happens once a decade across the entire sport. Youngest. And he will not be alone in that conversation. The 2026 World Cup already has Lamine Yamal, a European champion before his 18th birthday. Mexico's Gilberto Mora, breaking records that once belonged to Pelé. An entire generation of teenagers who do not appear to have read the part of the script where they're supposed to be nervous. Dowman belongs directly in that conversation, a genuine wild card attached to a squad that no longer needs him to carry anything, free to simply be dangerous. So stack it together and look at the actual shape of this England team heading into North America. A manager with a flawless qualifying record and a single explicit mandate. A spine of Bellingham, Saka, Kane and Rice that has no obvious weak point. A reformed Rashford adding a different kind of threat. And a 16-year-old who has already rewritten one record book, with the world wondering how many more he intends to take. The thing that should genuinely worry the rest of the draw is not any single name. It is that for the first time since 1966, England do not look like a team waiting for the wheels to come off.
They look like a team that has simply not had the chance yet to prove the old pattern is finally broken. Could it all still collapse in exactly the same way it always has? Absolutely. This is England. The penalty curse is 58 years old and has survived better squads than this one. A single bad refereeing decision, one more missed spot kick from a player who has scored 100 before it, and the entire conversation resets to the same old joke. None of that would shock anyone who has watched this team for longer than a decade. But for the first time in a long time, the dread does not sit only with England's own supporters. It has started to spread to whoever ends up drawing them. 58 years of hurt, 6 shootout defeats, one crack finally appearing in 2024, a flawless qualifying campaign, and now a 16-year-old already chasing records that once belonged to football's greatest names. The team the world has spent half a century quietly expecting to break English hearts again is, for the first time in a generation, the team other nations are starting to fear drawing. The curse might still win in the end, it usually does, but pretending England are simply this tournament's most reliable disappointment, that era might finally be finished. The rest of the planet has a serious England problem developing. Most of them just haven't admitted it yet.